Good day, everyone. Today, we will continue watching every crazy drug you never heard of. Now, this is part 2 because I didn't manage it in part 1. Yeah, let's start with it. So, a few seconds
I
back.
suppose. Just like I'm channeling something very intense that transcends humanity, too, see. This drug is one of the
Hmm,
only drugs I've mind or psychologicalized or written off in another way. The spirit possessed
okay.
in a way. Almost like I'm the creepy dude in Hereditary. That sort of thing, I suppose. Just like I'm channeling something very intense that
Yeah,
transcends
blah blah blah
humanity,
blah.
too, see. This drug is
2C. I think I heard of it. Maybe.
one of the only drugs I've covered with its name being one of the risk factors. This drug goes by many nicknames 2CB, pink coke, but there's no one word for it,
Hmm.
and that's kind of fitting considering there's no one recipe for it either. Now, if 2CB sounds anything similar to 2CB, you'd be correct, but these two drugs
Hmm.
are nothing alike. 2CB is a psychedelic we may or may not touch on later, but
Hmm. I mean, it's not a crazy drug, it's just a usual drug.
2C or 2CB is not a psychedelic whatsoever and is typically a
Wait.
concoction of various stimulants, opioids, amphetamines, and other things that should never be mixed together, especially with alcohol, which was unfortunately common, which we'll get into. But
Hmm.
don't worry, it's
Okay.
typically dyed pink, so it's gotta be fine, right? No. If you watched my last video about rich people with strange hobbies, you would have heard me discuss Sean Diddy Combs and his extremely deplorable actions. And if you've been following that story closely, then you may have actually heard of this drug I'm currently talking about. Why? Well, because 2C or pink cocaine is something that Sean Combs was reported to have used to lace the alcohol
Ah,
provided at his Diddy parties. Why? Because
no, not the Diddy
this
party.
concoction of drugs was almost always guaranteed to either render you unconscious or put you in such a vulnerable state of delirium that, unfortunately, you were easily taken advantage of, and in most
Oh no.
cases, didn't even fully remember what happened. Focusing back in on
Okay, okay, at least that's better, because I don't want to remember anything that happens after talking to him.
this drug. What exactly is it, and where did it come from? According to my research, 2C was created by a man named Alejo 2C in Colombia. Originally, 2C was a
Hmm,
combination of ketamine with other drugs, typically party drugs like MDMA or methamphetamine. According to some users on a drug forum, 2C is the drug of choice of many people in South America, let alone Colombia. But as the drug gained popularity and spread further out of South America, the recipe changed rather dramatically, essentially making the drug some sort of chemistry-themed game of telephone. It seems that the
hmm.
brand name got popular and everybody wanted to cash in, but they didn't know the recipe, so they just kind of made it up. And that's what makes this drug extremely dangerous.
I mean, you don't even know what's in it. Everyone has a different recipe, so you could either have a good time, have a sleepy time, or have a death
On
time.
top of the obvious element of taking illegal illicit substances. Just think about it. 5 people who have taken 2C could be discussing their experiences together, but all be talking about extremely different concoctions that they took, which makes this dangerous because if you don't know what you're taking, which unless you test it is the case for this substance, the way that it affects your body is going to change significantly. And
Yeah, I mean, if you have a medical emergency, what do you tell to the ER nurse? Like, I took this, and what's that? It's Tusi. What's that? We don't know.
and could very easily cause death. One user states that he was actually offered some from his dealer and he bought it, but he was at least somewhat smart and had it tested. He said it was a
Yeah, always. I mean, don't buy drugs. That's obvious. But if you do, do the least test them. I mean, just be a bit responsible.
pink powder that smelled like strawberries, but when it was tested, it turned out to be a mixture of caffeine, ketamine, MDMA, and a bit of meth, which he obviously
Okay, that would at least not kill him, I think.
didn't take. Others on this forum claimed that they've taken 2C that has had LSD mixed into it, creating a
Oh, no.
very extreme psychedelic experience that, according to them, was not pleasant. One rather ominous comment on this forum simply reads, "Hey guys, stay clear of this stuff. I'm having a massive mental breakdown. So intense. What can I do for relief? Please advise if you know anything medically." This
Uh, well, I don't know. Is it still taking effect? Because if yes, then I don't know. Maybe benzodiazepines would work?
This brings me to my next point. Taking unknown chemicals is bad enough, but taking an unknown mixture of chemicals is even worse. When you mix chemicals, your body doesn't process each of the individual effects from each chemical and stack them on top of each other. Typically, one of two things happen. Firstly, your brain processes all of the stimuli as one input, causing a system
Hmm.
overload which could end a number of different ways. This danger is only amplified when you take substances with very contradictory effects. For example, if you take a stimulant which increases your blood pressure and mix it with a depressant which lowers your blood pressure, you are simultaneously telling your body to speed up and slow down your heart rate at the same time, sending your brain extremely mixed.
Huh. I don't know what could happen if you tell body to rise blood pressure and to lower it. I'm not sure.
Signals, which can very easily lead to death. Now, secondly, on top of just having a
Hmm.
system overload, your
Okay.
body can, instead of just processing everything as one input, it can actually take the inputs that you gave it and produce a new input in your body. Your body is literally a master
Hmm.
chemist, so if you give it the wrong combination of chemicals, it will make something you likely don't want. So yeah, in case you need a recap on why 2C is so dangerous, the name itself is deceiving and confusing considering it sounds the exact same as a completely different drug. It has famously been used to take advantage of people. Its exact origin is unknown, and 9 times out of 10 you're probably going to get a random concoction of drugs that you shouldn't be taking. Individually,
Yeah. I mean, if there is one or more substance in something you buy, uh, don't take it. Or if you take it, do research on it. Don't just trust the man in the black alley who is giving you powder in a baggie.
or especially combined. I don't care if it's pink or smells like strawberries. 2C is diabolical. And yet, it's one of the more tame entries on this list. Let's move on.
Hmm.
2CB. Following the first
Oh, okay. He did go to 2CB.
segment, I almost felt compelled to add this drug as an entry. Admittedly, it's not the most crazy or obscure drug I've covered
Yeah, it really isn't. I think it's like Vicar LSD.
in the series, but it's still a crazy compound and has a story worth telling, especially if I was going to reference it so much in the first section. I figured you guys would be at least a bit curious about what the real 2CB was all about. 2CB is also commonly known as bromomescaline, bromo, nexus, or Venus, and is a synthetic psychedelic drug that was first synthesized in 1974 by Alex Shulgin. And it gained popularity initially for its potentially therapeutic uses, but has since been limited to primarily recreational use, which we'll get into. The reason why 2CB was dropped by the psychiatric community as an aid in therapy was due to the fact that it caused gastrointestinal effects and had a lack of empathogenic effects, which in simple
Hmm. Okay.
terms means it failed to cause the same level of emotional openness as other drugs serving a similar therapeutic purpose. It's easy
I mean, today the research chemicals for that purpose are, or research drugs are still psilocybin and MDMA, I think. They have research being done on them for PTSD.
to see how an empathogenic would be beneficial for a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but if it doesn't serve that purpose and only makes them horny and gassy, I could see why it was
Yeah.
also dropped rather quickly. Like, could you imagine seeing a psychologist and they give you this newly synthesized random chemical compound that they think might help you, but in reality you felt the same and just farted more? That would kind of suck. But unfortunately, it wasn't just that pleasant. Some psychiatrists initially would actually dose their clients with this without them knowing, as they believe
Oh, hell no. I mean, how do you do that? I mean, do you go like, okay, before we start talking, would you please drink this glass of water? But I'm not thirsty. Please drink the glass of water. Like, what did they do?
that it helped their clients be more open and introspective, and I guess gassy too, but jokes aside, that's definitely not cool. It is a bit of an unfortunate mix that an aphrodisiac can give you stomach issues. Definitely something you do not want to mix. Like, all I'm
Yeah,
saying is if Viagra had a side effect of diarrhea, it probably wouldn't be all that popular. Now, although
who knows? Who are you to say?
it failed in psychiatric cases, it definitely gained popularity in the party scene as it was known as the most powerful sex enhancing drug of all time. In fact, during the
Oh,
19
okay, then it's something else than I thought.
80s, several different companies manufactured and sold 2CB as a sexual enhancement product. Basically,
Hmm.
one of those gas station boner pills, which is pretty crazy considering this drug is half stimulant and half hallucinogen, with some people comparing it to MDMA combined with a psychedelic. According to studies, even low doses of this drug in young chickens have shown to produce similar effects to low doses of amphetamines. So I don't know why they tested this
Okay.
on young chickens, but yeah, young
Hmm.
chickens took it and acted like they were on meth, which also means that at some point they gave these chickens meth too. So I feel really bad for these chickens, and some of you
Hmm.
fiends watching envy these chickens. So yeah, strange, but I guess the low doses or it gives you the aphrodisiac and social effects. Normal doses give you the slight psychedelic and slight amphetamine effect, and high doses are a rather strong psychedelic experience. But to be
Hmm. Okay. That's interesting.
fair, this drug is an extremely unknown, and it's also not the most insane drug I've covered. But what is
Yeah.
crazy is a drug that is commonly mistaken for 2CB, known as bromo dragonfly. Bromo dragonfly
Huh.
was first synthesized in 1998 and is an extremely potent chemical compound. For example, this drug is measured in micrograms, not milligrams, micrograms,
I mean, so is LSD.
which is extremely dangerous because this compound is toxic to humans at even moderate doses, which is extremely dangerous because if
I mean, so is capsaicin or hot sauce, because capsaicin is a neurotoxin.
you think you're taking 2CB, but you are taking bromo dragonfly, if you take even a low dose of what you think is 2CB of bromo dragonfly, you will be dead. Bromo dragonfly is
Hmm.
20 times more potent than 2CB. And because of unfortunate mix-ups, at least 5 people have been reported to have been killed from bromo dragonfly toxicity. On top of death, people have also lost limbs due to bromo dragonfly. As in one case, a
Wow.
35-year-old Swedish man had vasoconstriction in one of his legs, leading to necrosis in one of his feet.
Okay, yeah, that's possible. That's for sure possible.
Basically meaning his blood vessels narrowed to the point where blood could not effectively get to that part of the body, and part of his foot died and had to be amputated, all because of this
Yeah.
drug. Bromo dragonfly is likely one of the more dangerous and scary aspects of 2CB, and although it's a completely separate compound, they are often mistaken for each other, as there is a variant of 2CB known as 2CB fly, which is often mistaken as bromo dragonfly, which is a deadly mistake due to, like I said, the 20 times difference in potency. Bromo dragonfly is a rather mysterious and elusive substance, and honestly, it was kind of hard to gather much more information on it than I've currently gathered here. But yeah, the real 2CB was a mix between LSD and MDMA, at least in low doses, and
Okay. I mean, if it was that dangerous, you could just candy flip or take MDMA and LSD. I mean, I'm not saying you should do that. I'm saying it would likely be safer than using 2CB, if you catch my drift. But don't you don't do drugs. That's bad. Or if you don't do research and you get addicted, then it's bad.
was even in very low doses sold as an aphrodisiac. And unfortunately, there was a very similar sounding variant that was 20 times more potent and accidentally taken in high doses, which typically led to death or, in fortunate cases, just amputation. Jenko.
Okay, we have Jenkem.
So far in this series, we've covered drugs that will make you lose your mind for weeks, instantly kill you, make you lose all control
Yeah, we did.
of your body, make you join a cult, and other crazy things. But no drug
Yeah.
that we've covered has been, in my opinion, as gross as Jenkum. For some of you, you've
Huh.
heard this story before, and if you
No, I haven't.
haven't, I envy you. But I am about to ruin your day with exactly what it is. To put it
So, spoiler. So, yeah. Uh, alert. Uh, caution. This could be gross. So, if you're eating while watching this, please stop the video or stop eating, or risk continue eating. I have food in front of me, so um, yeah. Let's see.
frankly, Jenkum is a fermented mix of human waste. In simple
Okay.
simpler terms, human urine and fecal matter are the primary ingredients for this drug. It's
Primary ingredients. I don't know how that. I, uh, why?
rather rudimentary in nature and only requires you to urinate and defecate into a bottle, allow it to ferment in the sun for a few days, and after just a bit of time, your jankum is ready for inhaling. The drug is
I'm sorry? Inhaling? I mean, if you're trying to get an lung infection or sepsis or something like that, then sure, go ahead.
reported to give a hallucinogenic effect and was first reported in the mid 1990s as a
Who is reporting that shit?
street drug among Zambian youth. In this case, they would do their business in this bottle and attach a balloon on top and leave it in the sun. And as this balloon would fill up with gases, they could tell that their fermented jankum was almost ready. Following this, they would take the balloon and inhale their concoction.
The balloon's contents.
This almost sounds like a troll because of how disgusting this would be. Like, not even the best high in the world could convince me to leave my own business in a bottle to ferment in the sun for days.
I mean, it could be worse. It could be someone else's business.
To then inhale it.
I'm sorry. If anyone watching this video on YouTube is eating, but yeah, I mean, it would be worse if it was someone else's.
I can only imagine how many people that have tried this drug have instantly just thrown up. I can only assume that this is one of those smells that is burnt into your nostrils forever. As far as the actual effects of this drug, it seems rather underwhelming, especially for what you have to put up with to consume it. But I guess you get what you pay for. This is one drug you can get even if you're piss poor. Get it? The main source of the hallucinogenic effect from this drug typically comes from the hypoxia that it causes, because the fermented raw sewage produces two primary gases, carbon monoxide and hydrogen sulfide. The carbon monoxide
Yeah. So it's like very, very, very cheap galaxy gas.
can cause an altered state in your brain by displacing oxygen, which, like I mentioned, can cause hypoxia, which can be euphoric but also extremely dangerous and cause potential brain damage and even death. And hydrogen sulfide in low doses can cause irritation to your eyes, nose, and throat. Moderate doses can cause headache, dizziness, nausea, and vomiting. And in high doses can cause shock, convulsions, coma, and even death. I literally
Yeah.
can't see any reason why anybody would want to do this. These two extremely dangerous and relatively common gases are likely the least ideal way to get any sort of buzz, and you'd probably be better off just doing some breath work than inhaling poop air. I couldn't
Yeah.
find much in terms of trip reports, and I'm honestly glad because I don't think I'd want to read anything from somebody who would do such a thing. And although this drug is relatively simple and not very well documented, it is still disgusting, crazy, and in my opinion, a story worth telling. And even if the story ended there, I still think it would have landed on this list simply because of the sheer gross out and shock factor. But luckily for you, that's not the whole story.
Oh no. There's more.
One of the most interesting aspects about this drug is how one high school student was able to use it to troll almost all of America in 2007. I know this is a drug video and not a hoax
Oh no.
video, so I'll make this part brief, but it is kind of interesting and honestly hilarious. Long story short, a high school student heard about the African use of jankum and thought it was just disgusting, which honestly, fair. But he took it a step further and actually made his own fake jankum and planted pictures of it and people using it online in an attempt
No. 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 No.
to cause a hoax. Little did he know that this would get picked up by the police, and because of this, an internal memo was made and leaked, which eventually made
How do you explain this is a prank?
it to the news. Once this news broke, it became a widespread panic amongst parents that their child could be getting high off of their own sewage, which is
Uh, I don't know what to tell you.
hilarious and idiotic and just insane. There's a really hilarious news segment all about jankum back from 2007 when this hoax was going on. And one of my favorite parts is the street interviews they did with people when they were explaining the drug to them and asking them
Yeah, news just create hysteria. They don't even fact check their sources.
what they thought about it. Let me play that for you quickly.
I couldn't imagine doing something like that.
They need to find something better to do with their life.
Sounds pretty sick to me.
So yeah, to summarize jankum, it's literally pee and poo in a bottle in the sun, and it's gross. On top of all of the dangerous bacteria and just disgusting odor, you also risk getting brain damage from hypoxia. And besides the original breaking news from
Or an infection from inhaling something you shouldn't.
Africa, it appears that most of the widespread information and panic around this drug is based off a hoax or a troll, which is kind of hilarious. Information itself on African use cases of this is pretty hard to find, and although I'm sure it happened in some instances,
I mean, who would report that, or even mention that in a casual talk, or even confess to doing it? I will tell you, no one.
I can't imagine this is something that's extremely popular, but feel free to chime in if you know anything about this that I wasn't able to find. I think the funniest part about this entire situation
Hell no. People would do their reports. People will try it and do reports.
is how this Florida news anchor ended this broadcast.
But parents need to be aware that kids are calling it by the more popular slang term, butt hash.
It is unfortunate and upsetting that African youth are resorting to such a disgusting means just to get a little high. And honestly, I don't blame them. But I guess the silver lining is, out of all of this, we did get butt hash, Flocka. Our fun little
Okay, now this is Fleka.
poop interlude is over, and now we're back to some seriously diabolical particles, of which Flocka is definitely one of the highest rank.
I think this is also a mix of substances, not one substance, but I'm not sure.
Flocka, also known as alpha PVP or zombie drug, is a
No, it's not a mix. Okay, I was wrong.
seriously deadly synthetic stimulant. It triggers surges of both dopamine and norepinephrine in the body simultaneously. This combination can cause aggression, paranoia, anxiety, hallucinations, agitation, psychosis, and more. And physically, it can cause kidney damage or failure and heart attacks. It's not
Well, yeah. I mean, if you take too much noradrenaline, that will fry your heart and maybe your kidneys. I'm not sure how kidneys work, but I know kidneys also have a gland that produces hormones, which I don't know where I was going with that, but I think it could damage the kidneys too.
just the combination of dopamine and norepinephrine that caused this too. There's other factors involved, but those are some of the side effects of this drug that I wanted to get to right away, because
Would it then also fry those receptors? Or it wouldn't be that much to overload them just to peak the concentration for a few
this
hours?
drug is insane. I don't even know if this is real, but based off some of the videos I've seen of people on this drug, I would believe it. I guess some people call this drug $5 insanity, which is looking accurate because this drug is extremely cheap, at least
If it's cheap, it doesn't mean it's good choice.
relatively compared to other drugs, especially due to its potency, and it literally turns you into a zombie. Hence the zombie
Yeah, I would also think so.
drug name I mentioned earlier. The source of Flocka is actually naturally occurring and is commonly used in Africa as a mild stimulant. They take leaves from the cat plant and chew it, and from that they get a mild stimulant effect, which is rather common in Africa and some other places as well. However, although they are chemically similar, the Flocka that you see on the streets are nowhere near natural, and they are all synthetically produced, typically overseas in countries like China. Like some other street drugs, Flocka is known to produce superhuman strength, which is something you've probably heard about.
I mean, if it increases noradrenaline, that would remove the limiter on your muscles, which would lead to more strength, but also would lead to more injuries.
In terms like meth head strength or crackhead agility, which is extra crazy because not only are you out of your mind, but you're also a superhuman on this drug. And one of the reasons why it's so dangerous is because it's 10 times more potent than cocaine and 20 times more potent than MDPV, which is one of the primary ingredients in bath salts. Speaking of bath salts, this drug is a synthetic cathinone, which is a chemical that is chemically related to pyros. And if you watched our first video, you would
Okay, catenones are just your neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, I think maybe noradrenaline and adrenaline. So everything that brain uses to function, like, I mean, not everything, but all the neurotransmitters in your brain, I think, but I'm not sure.
know what pyros are all about. Flocka is a ketone analog of prolintane, which is exactly what inhibits the norepinephrine and dopamine uptake, causing the central nervous system stimulant effect. This drug can be taken almost any way and has been reported to be ingested
Okay, interesting.
by smoking, snorting, placing it under your tongue, ingesting it, or even vaping it. The overdose risk on this drug is extremely high because, as we stated previously, the potency is extremely high, but it also enters your bloodstream extremely fast, meaning that if
Oh no. If something enters your bloodstream fast and in high doses, it will hit you like a
you
truck.
take too much, the only way you'll really know is by passing out and hopefully waking up at some point to realize you took too much. The entire experience on this drug lasts anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, but the side effects and come
She.
down lasts for days. This isn't
I mean, anything that pushes your dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin too high will make you feel real depressed for few days. I mean, the receptors are so resistant to those neurochemicals that your brain just it isn't enough how much it produces. So you just go in a detox until they downregulate again or upregulate, I'm not sure, until they are sensitive again.
Quite a trip report, but it's one of my favorite stories relating to this drug. A man in Florida, of all places, I know, shocker, was high on flocka walking down the street when he found a particularly attractive tree and attempted to have sex with it.
Okay. Not the weirdest thing I have heard today.
Understandably, the police were called on this aggressive man, this innocent tree, and shortly
I mean, he would be charged with public indecency, but I mean, I don't know if doing it with a tree is a felony.
enough the police arrived. Obviously, because he was high on flocka, he was extremely aggressive and was not responding or cooperating with the police at all. And this led the police to tase him.
I mean, let the man have his time with a tree.
2 different officers tased this man, and as he
I mean, forget that, scratch that, don't take it out of the context. Don't let him commit public indecency, but I mean, I don't know what you can do if he won't listen and you can't really drag him. But tasing, I mean, he's already high. I think that would literally try his heart.
was tased, he didn't fall, he didn't even budge. He simply pulled the taser barbs out of his skin and
Okay, I would guess that's also a side effect from high noradrenaline.
yelled, "I am Thor." And it turns out
Yeah, you harvested the lightning from the taser. Now you are god of lightning.
that he actually wasn't Thor. He was just a Florida man high on flocka. I just hope that tree is okay. As I was doing research on different experiences and people on this drug, I found 2 interesting trends. 1, there's not many trip reports, just sightings of people on this drug in public. And 2, everybody that's been spotted on this drug is typically naked.
Hmm. Don't know why would that be. It maybe makes you very horny or very hot, or the texture or fabric of the clothes irritates you, or you are too sensitive to touch. I don't know.
Upon further research, I found out why, and it's honestly interesting and scary. Long story short, flocka increases your core body temperature to over 106 degrees Fahrenheit, which is much stronger than your average fever, and this
Well, let me search up how much is that in Celsius. I don't do freedom units. Wait. 106 Fahrenheit to Celsius. That's 41. Damn.
temperature is also
That's like brain damage levels.
the point at which your muscles start to break down, which is
Yeah.
another huge negative side effect on your body. So
That would cause rhabdo. I don't know how it's called with full name, but it's when your muscles break down, leak CK, and practically poison you.
yeah, this drug makes you really hot, and when you're in such a zombie-like state, getting naked is easy to do and probably feels pretty right. I know we mentioned
I mean, it's medically correct thing to do. If you have that high of a temperature, I think they would also strip you if you were in the hospital and put ice packs on you. But you shouldn't go out in public without clothes. But if you're at home, in your room, then maybe that wouldn't be such a bad idea. If you're having such a high fever, to take off your clothes and maybe drink cold water or use something cold.
earlier that this drug is chemically similar to pyros, and if that's the case, then I wouldn't want to be near anybody on anything similar to pyros if they're naked and running around with absolutely no fear and with super strength. If you haven't seen the first video on crazy
Yeah.
drugs, let's just say pyros make you really, really excited. So yeah,
He meant horny.
Even though this drug is cheap and lasts up to 8 hours and makes you feel like Superman, or I guess Thor, it will literally destroy your body, likely kill you, and in the very best case, you will survive, but your life is essentially ruined. So
I mean, most likely you will need to take a visit to a hospital after a muscle breakdown, and you would also be very, very depressed, and also you would maybe need some more medical attention from a psychologist. But yeah,
unless you want to do the most realistic zombie cosplay, don't go anywhere near this substance. Although
uh, yeah, don't use this for Halloween if you're cosplaying a zombie.
Flocka is ridiculous, and every other drug on this list has been crazy as well. The last entry on this list is likely the most crazy, and potentially even crazier than every entry on this list combined.
Let me guess, crocodile maybe.
At least in my opinion. Crocodile.
Yes, I guessed it. It's literally shooting gasoline inside your veins. If you didn't know, gasoline doesn't really mix very well with blood or your internal organs.
This drug, I would say, for anybody watching this video is probably something you've heard of, at least in passing. It's definitely lower on the never heard of scale, but on the craziness
I thought it was really unpopular because who would use it?
scale, it is off the charts, which is why I decided to keep it in this video. Like a few others on this list, crocodile is a synthetic opioid, which is most commonly known for its use in Russia. If you thought to yourself that crocodile kind of sounds like crocodile, well, you wouldn't be wrong. And that isn't by accident. The drug's actual name is desomorphine, but it's known as crocodile
Desomorphine. I mean morphine, but I don't know what is deso.
because of what it does to your body. Crocodile is most commonly injected, and when injected, it can cause clotting and damage to blood vessels. This
Yeah. I mean, if you inject anything that shouldn't be on your body, then it's possible that it will cause clotting.
causes the surrounding tissue of the injection area to die and rot. This causes
Okay, so it's a muscular injection and not an intravenous. Okay, that was my fault.
the dead skin to turn dark green and get a scaly texture. This is obviously where the crocodile name comes from. The horrible
I thought it would be black or blue because necrotic tissue is often blue or black later.
horribly infected injection sites of this drug. But that's just the beginning. The drug does not dissolve completely in your body, and the clumps of this chemical circulating through your bloodstream can get lodged in other
Ow.
areas and do extreme harm, such as
Like brain, lungs, heart.
causing infections in soft tissue, ulcers, and even gangrene, without even knowing literally any
Gangrene. I learned about that, but I forgot what it is.
other details about this drug. It is safe to say that this drug deserves a spot on this list, but we're just getting started. The
I
fact
think it's like necrosis, but still alive tissue, so it's an active infection with dead tissue surrounding the alive one and also making it necrotic, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure.
this drug is so destructive to your
Don't take me for a word. Look it up. What's gangrene?
cells upon even first use is insane, but it doesn't stop there. The drug was actually first synthesized in the 1930s in the USA, and it produced
Necrosis, but tissue is dies really fast and spreads. Okay, yeah. So it's like necrosis around the living tissue that then also becomes necrotic. Okay, yeah. Thank you for correcting me. I appreciate it.
is an opioid-like effect with a fast onset. It is a powerful morphine derivative and is about 10 times more potent than regular morphine. And the first recorded cases of abuse of this drug appeared internationally in 2002. This helps shine a little bit more light on why people take this drug in spite of how destructive it is to your body. It is essentially
Yeah, I mean, just buy some morphine or just. Okay, that was terrible advice. Go to a addiction center to get off it. I guess that would be a right call.
an extremely potent, cheap alternative to heroin that can be made with items from the hardware store and the pharmacy. And for that reason, it gained
Pharmacy. I mean, I don't know, but in Russia the codeine could be acquirable in a pharmacy without a prescription.
Popularity in Russia and Eastern Europe, countries that are poor and typically struggle with substance abuse. And with how easy it is and cheap it is to make, the popularity is unfortunately understandable. Although this drug has an extremely potent and euphoric morphine-like effect, due to its potency, it is extremely toxic and typically causes hallucinations, which isn't super common for other morphine analogs.
Yeah, they usually cause, yeah, a very light feeling of body, pleasure, relaxation, or anti-anxiety effects, and it slows down your breathing until your body can't detect how much carbon dioxide you have in your lungs, and you can die from it or stop breathing and die.
As far as trip reports go, I was unsuccessful in finding any that were at least verifiable, but we have covered a lot of detailed, extremely potent opioid trip reports in this series so far, which, if this is the first video you're seeing, there is 2 others which you can watch after this. Without getting too deep into chemistry
I'm not sure I saw those.
mumbo jumbo, there's not a lot more to talk about when it comes to crocodile. And honestly, the most interesting part about it is how destructive it is to your body and how scarily accurate the name is. This drug is disgusting, destructive, and it's extremely unfortunate that people are resorting to using this. There are videos online of people taking this drug, and it is extremely scary to see. 25I-NBO.
Yeah, NBOMEs are not really great. There are more of them that are called NBOME, I think.
OME. Quite the name, and for short, we'll just call it 25I.
I think that's also the one that's very likely to be sold as LSD, but it's much more dangerous and people die from it because they take too much or they don't know what they took.
Other popular nicknames are N-bomb and Smiles, both
Smiles.
odd. 25I was first synthesized in 2003 for research purposes, but it only took the drug community about 7 years for it to become popular. In 2010, it began to circulate the recreational drug scene due to the psychedelic effects associated with it, but unfortunately, it was often misrepresented as LSD, which is
Yeah, that's why you should test your LSD. If you buy LSD or MDMA or benzos or cocaine, you should always test it. I mean, you shouldn't even buy them or use them, but if you are going to anyway, at least test them so you don't end up in a hospital
extremely dangerous for reasons
or dead. Because if you're doing it alone, I don't know who would call the ambulance. So sadly, people die when they don't know what they take.
we'll get into. 25I is a potent phenethylamine and is deadly in doses as low as a milligram. This chemical has caused significantly more deaths and dangerous responses than your run-of-the-mill psychedelic. And although it typically comes on blotters and does have a psychoactive effect similar to LSD, that is
Yeah,
really where the similarities end. 25I is typically sold as LSD because to the unsuspecting consumer, the effects may be similar. And 25I is considerably cheaper than LSD, giving the distributor an incentive to misrepresent the drug for a profit. However, this fact
I mean, killing people for profit is just morally and ethically unhinged. I mean, just up the prices. Don't sell drugs as something they aren't. That's really uh, that's villain. That's not someone evil. That's someone who should be in jail.
act alone causes a lot of the danger and is a considerable reason why there has been so many deaths and injuries associated with this compound. 25I is potent, and I mean very potent. And unfortunately, that means that there is a very high risk of overdose.
I mean, I don't even know what the side effects of it are because I never looked into it because, I mean, who is ever going to take that?
Specifically when you are taking high doses of this drug. Even the margin between a moderately high dose and an overdose is razor thin. And if you are taking blotters that are not evenly distributed, you could think you're taking a low to moderate dose, but in reality, actually taking a dose that will potentially kill you without you even knowing. This story alone is a great example why people who take recreational drugs should always have them tested, because
Yeah, always test what you're taking, except it's from pharmacy.
it could truly
But also, if it is from pharmacy, you usually want to get the same brand because even pharmacies can't always have the same effect. Because if it's from one company, let's say uh, Adderall, it's going to have different effects uh, than generic amphetamines. Or if you take L-thyroxine for your for your thyroid, one brand is going to have a different effect than the other one or the cheapest generic one. So you should usually always get the same brand to get the same effect.
Save your life. And although the potential life-threatening toxicity and death associated from this drug being either abused or misrepresented as a completely different compound are extremely scary, that's not where the story ends. Obviously, taking this drug and dying is the worst outcome, but it's not the only bad outcome that can happen if you take this compound. Let's focus in a bit on the actual experience of this compound. This drug not only produces visual changes, but can also produce auditory, tactile, and smell-based hallucinations, which to me sounds hilarious and irritating. Like, imagine you just keep smelling something, especially if it's a negative smell and you can't identify the source of where it's coming from.
Yeah, that would make you go cuckoo.
That alone would probably drive me mad. And it is commonly reported that trips on this substance are overwhelming and dysphoric, with some sensations being described as confusion and anxiety, thought loops, the inability to complete basic tasks.
I mean, it's the same if you take a high dose of anything except cocaine. If you take a high dose of cocaine, you would be very productive. Okay, that was a joke. That would kill you most likely. But yeah, I mean, amphetamines are prescribed for ADHD, so you could start a task and finish it, but it's prescribed at such doses they don't cause damage to you, just give you benefits, so lowest effective dose.
And that's on the light end. On the darker end of things, this drug can cause delirium, which could be extremely dangerous for the user itself and those around the user. This is because these delirious states are typically accompanied with aggression and agitation. Due to the sheer intensity of this substance, it is not uncommon for people to experience HPPD or
Oh yeah,
dissociation. HPPD, for those who don't know, means hallucinogen persisting perception disorder.
yeah. I didn't know what it was spelled out, but HPPD is when even after the drug has stopped working, you still have after effects like I don't know, visual snow or seeing the uh how is it called? Lights have the lines which can annoy you very much, or yeah.
Which essentially is the experience of subtle visual cues that they experienced on psychedelics for days, weeks, months, or even years
Yeah.
after they took their psychedelic. Typically, this manifests as some sort of visual static, and the specific reason for this happening is unknown, which to me sounds terrifying. When taken sublingually, which basically just means under
Under the tongue.
your tongue or cheek, this drug can last up to 10 hours. And with
Oh, hell nah.
the negative effects that it's typically reported to have, that's not something I would even want to consider. And I guess kind of a fun fact, if you watched our last video about the deadliest drugs you've never heard of, then you heard me talk about 2CB, which is obviously in the 2C family of drugs. I bring this up because 25I is actually a 2C derivative, which I'm
Oh, so I guess I was wrong at the beginning.
assuming at least a few of you knew. Oh yeah, and I didn't even talk about the physical effects of this drug. Besides the potential terrifying mental experience you could have for up to 10 hours, physically, besides dying, you could also experience seizures, rhabdomyolysis, metabolic acidosis, renal failure, and even coma. And
Okay, so rhabdo is when your muscles start to break down and the things they contain are in your bloodstream, which could lead to a lot of bad things like heart attacks. Metabolic acidosis is having too much, too acidic blood, I think. Renal failure is your kidneys shutting down. And coma is, yeah, I think you know what coma is. I mean, it's a state where you only breathe and do basic human functions like breathe, keep a high heart rate, pee, poop, but you are still not able to move. You are just sleeping, unconscious, unresponsive for a long time. Or it it isn't always a long time, but for multiple days, months, or years.
and in rarer cases, thrombosis. Due to the nature
Thrombosis, that's when you get a blood clot, which then, yeah, which then stops the blood flow to a specific organ, like a muscle or brain or heart or something like that. It just closes that specific vein or artery, or mostly capillaries, which are small veins where blood flows very hard, even if you don't have a clot.
of this drug being a relatively obscure research chemical, it's hard to pinpoint a lot of information about the exact effects on the human body. However, I was
I mean, who is taking it so you could test it or take notes?
able to gather some user experiences from a popular drug forum. One user stated his frustration with this drug even existing simply because of the dangers it proposed with its misrepresentation, claiming, quote, "The very existence of the NB-OME series pisses me off. It's super hard to get real acid now, at least where I live. Most
Yeah,
people have no idea that there are dangerous replacements for acid, including the dealers. They seriously think they're selling LSD when they're actually selling 2,5-I NBOME. This is
yeah, that's a big problem in black market. Even if you want to sell a good quality product, if you are reselling it from someone else, so you are having a third party, you don't know if the thing is real or when they are going to switch you to the less good stuff. So if you don't have a chemist, or if you aren't a chemist, that's a really big problem in the black market for the police or authorities, and for the consumers of the dealer.
obviously concerning due to the high likelihood of overdose risk, especially if you think you're taking LSD, which has a much lower risk for overdose and death.
I mean, it's impossible to overdose on LSD, as far as I know, but the risks of that are still real, because LSD can make you overheat or do stupid things like think you can fly and jumping out of the window, or thinking someone is someone they are not and hurting them. And yeah, stuff like that can happen on LSD and can lead to death. But the substance itself, physiologically, I don't think it would necessarily kill you.
For that matter. Another user went on to share their exact experience with the drug by going on to write, quote, "I did this on Halloween with 2 of my friends. We each took 1 tab. Almost immediately I started feeling the effects, and it felt like I was peaking off of 2 tabs. It was enjoyable for like an hour, but then it really started getting bad. My friend
It wasn't even peaking at 2 hours, most likely.
threw up multiple times, and I was shaking uncontrollably. My heart rate was
I think that's Rapido.
insane. My teeth
Yeah, that could be Rapido.
were grinding and they ached. My body
Yeah, that's a common thing on stimulants, grinding teeth, like ketamine or MDMA, or even cocaine.
high made me feel like I was tweaking out on meth. The visuals were way too intense and overwhelming. I could barely walk and I felt like I was super drunk. Every time I laid down, I had awful nausea. 4 hours in and I started having psychosis and very dark thoughts because I just wanted to end the trip. I couldn't even
Yeah, yeah, that can happen.
sleep for 20 hours after the trip ended. 25-I NBOME makes you feel disgusting and coked out. The visuals feel
Yeah. That's the 20 hours after the trip ended not sleeping is also possible on LSD if you take too much, because it keeps you stimulated and you just can't fall asleep because you are too amped,
metal and fake,
even if you're sleepy.
and your mind feels like it's drunk. I think both of these experiences sum up the dangers and honestly the scariness of this compound as a whole. The experience sounds intense and for the most part unpleasant, to say the least. And with the risk of overdose being relatively high, especially in cases where it's being misrepresented as LSD, which unfortunately is common, the risk for an unpleasant experience is high. And the risk for death is unfortunately not unheard of. Personally, I think the scariest part about this compound is that people aren't even willingly taking it. People think they're taking LSD, but instead they are
Yeah, most people aren't really willing to try it.
taking a relatively unknown and poorly documented research chemical with known deaths and negative effects, unknown long-term toxicity, and the potential for at the very least 10 hours of mental torture. But believe it or not, this is one of the most tame entries on this list and even in this series.
Wow.
So with that, let's go deeper. U47700.
Okay, I never heard of that one.
Also known as pink. This drug is a dangerous synthetic opioid and is reported to be at least 7 to 8 times more potent than morphine. And because of that, somewhat ironically, it only takes a dose of roughly the size of the tip of your pinky to be able to kill you. But that's not why they call it pink. I'm honestly not sure why. I guess in some cases.
I mean, fentanyl is more dangerous, but still, the fentanyl is most dangerous you can take. Opioid, or not really. There is one one improved version of fentanyl that is even stronger. But this one is pretty high up the list of bad, strong opioids.
This is pink, but not to be confused with pink cocaine from our last episode on the deadliest drug. This chemical was developed by a US pharmaceutical company in the 1970s, but for reasons that are not known, the project was abandoned. This drug has never been
Not known reasons.
tested at all. Not on animals, not in laboratory studies. It was synthesized, abandoned, and then seemingly randomly appeared on the illicit drug market. It is not confirmed or even known how, but it is heavily suspected that this compound's recipe has somehow gotten into the hands of illegal drug manufacturers in China, which seems likely due to the fact that a lot of
Of course, it's China.
extremely strong, deadly synthetic opioids are produced overseas in illegal drug factories that are unfortunately shipped directly to the United States. In 2016, this drug had a pretty major news circulation due to the fact that it was responsible for the death of 2 13-year-old boys in Utah, which is
Oh, no. Man, what are you doing at 13?
obviously extremely upsetting and unfortunate. But another even more high-profile death associated with this drug is actually Prince. Prince's formal cause of death was a fentanyl overdose, but according to sources close to the investigation, U47700 was also found in his body. Not exactly a trip report, but one scary experience associated with this drug involves a 41-year-old woman simply looking to heal her back pain. It is claimed that a woman with chronic back pain was taking a prescription drug known as Norco, and when her prescription ran out, she turned to a friend to get a few pills while she was waiting for her prescription to be refilled. And although she trusted her friend and the pills that she got from her friend looked exactly the same as her
Oh no. What the granny doing?
prescription pills, they were not the same whatsoever. And these were actually counterfeit drugs, not being her prescribed oxycodone painkillers, but actually being a mixture of U47700 and fentanyl. She
Man, oh. That's like the worst mix you can get from opioids, I would say.
unknowingly took these counterfeit pills in the morning, and in the passenger seat of her friend's car on the way to work, she lost consciousness and stopped breathing. She was rushed to the hospital and needed to be revived in the emergency department. Fortunately, this woman survived, but this is not the case for everybody, and it is extremely scary how someone thinking they're taking a prescription pill can actually be taking a deadly dose of an unknown substance. This story alone is a great example of why buying any sort of drug off the street is never a good idea. The effects of U47700 are pretty similar to any synthetic ultra-strong opioid, potentially causing constipation, severe and possibly fatal respiratory depression, seizures, psychosis, addiction, and of course, a very high risk of overdose and death.
I mean, I think constipation is the least of your problems.
Now, if you're watching this video and you've watched every episode in the series so far, this may seem like more or less of a standard run-of-the-mill, ultra-strong synthetic opioid. And you're right. And although this drug is scary and crazy and deadly, it's not extremely different from any other designer synthetic opioid. However, I added it to this list for 2 reasons. One, the first drug I had in this place actually had to be removed because YouTube did not like it at all. And secondly, one thing that makes
Which one could be that? Could that be?
this drug rather
Maybe fentanyl?
unique, at least to me, is the fact that this
No, he mentioned fentanyl. I don't know which one.
drug for a long time was legal. From the 1970s all
What? Of course, it's 1970s, 60s, 80s, 50s, like those times. Like you could get cocaine in a cough syrup or morphine for a child, baby, or even cocaine in a coke.
All the way up until 2016, this drug was completely legal and extremely dangerous. And you can imagine when you have an extremely strong and legal opioid, there's no doubt that distributors and manufacturers of illicit substances were using this to cut other drugs or simply try to misrepresent it and sell it as heroin. In 2016,
Yeah.
though, under an emergency act, this drug was temporarily categorized as a Schedule 1 substance, which is where it ultimately stayed. In 2015 and 2016 alone, 46 deaths were linked to this specific chemical. This drug may not be the most unique designer drug out there, but it's likely one you haven't heard of. And to me, it's definitely crazy and honestly scary how strong it is and how it was legal for so long.
I mean, with that name, you aren't really remembering even if you heard of it.
Moving on, Datura. At a first glance, this rather innocent-looking flower seems rather nice and looks like something you may have in a bouquet.
Oh no, not Datura. That's one that makes you trip balls and live another life, I think. Or was it another one? It was one in previous part of my video, reacting to this video, that was similar, had similar effects, I think.
But this drug is not nearly as innocent as it seems.
It's deliriant, I think. So much I think I know.
And it very much so deserves the nickname of the Devil's Trumpets. Datura is a highly poisonous flowering plant that belongs to the nightshade family. Also,
It's the plant that closes at day. I think it could be that one, or it is Morning Glories, but I'm not sure really. No, I think it's this one. I think you are correct.
species of Datura are extremely poisonous and psychoactive, specifically their seeds and their flowers, which, just for a brief, can cause respiratory depression, fever, delirium, hallucinations, anticholinergic syndrome, psychosis, and even death. And due to these severe
I mean, if you survive it, you would want to be dead, or that's what I heard. That don't ban me, don't ban me, YouTube.
effects and symptoms, Datura species of plants have occasionally been used not only as psychedelics but also as poisons throughout history. Traditionally, around colonial times, the psychoactive effects have been associated with witchcraft and sorcery, but to some Native American groups, the Datura plant has been used ritualistically. This plant did play a
Yeah,
significant role for these two groups in the past. Although, knowing what we know now about this seemingly harmless plant, I cannot imagine what would have been going through these people's minds when they took it. One risk factor associated with this drug that most people don't consider is the natural variation of the toxicity depending on specific factors like the age of the plant, where it's growing, and the local weather conditions, all of which can affect how strong the toxins are within this plant. If you're paying attention, you heard me say anticholinergic, which may sound
plants look the same. Yeah, they look similar. Also, anticholinogenic, it's means it blocks the acetylcholine in your brain, which makes it impossible to remember things, form new memories. It messes with your short-term memory. It messes with your attention, ability to learn new things, and it can also mess with muscle control, I think.
familiar if you watched our second video
And it causes delirium.
about crazy drugs, specifically EA3167. If you haven't seen that video, EA3167 was basically a military-funded and produced anticholinergic drug that was made as a bioweapon, which fortunately didn't see much use, but was tested on American soldiers with extremely scary effects, which if you haven't seen that video yet,
Typical student lingo. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it can sound like that.
watch after this one because that story is insane. Anticholinergic drugs
It's just about million times worse.
reduce the brain's ability to use acetylcholine, which is essential for almost every function of the brain, including memory, motor skills, thinking, and things like that. So not only do you feel like a crazy person with dementia while you take this drug, but it's also been shown that long-term use of this drug can also literally cause you to develop dementia. I think
Yeah. It's the same thing with benzodiazepines, Benadryl, and the DXM.
this is the first psychoactive plant we've covered in this entire series that has been used almost equally as much as a poison as it has as a psychedelic. Maybe not equally, but definitely pretty heavily in both regards. From 1950 to 1965 alone, the state chemical laboratories in India investigated over 2,700 deaths caused by
Damn. I mean, if it's a flower and you don't put anything around it, how are people supposed to know it's poisonous?
ingesting datura. And those were just the cases that were investigated, not all of them. Many of these being murders. One thing that is extremely terrifying to me
Okay.
is that you can accidentally consume datura toxins simply by consuming honey from the wrong species of wasp during
Oh, no.
the datura blooming season due to cross-pollination. I think at this point you get the idea, but we haven't even discussed what this drug is like if you take a dose that doesn't kill you and you go into it intentionally looking for some sort of psychedelic experience. Well, for starters, people that ingest datura typically begin to experience symptoms within 30 to 60 minutes. But the psychoactive
Oh, the waiting. If you realize you took it by mistake, the waiting is the worst part until you begin to go crazy and try to remember. But then you realize you can't remember. And then you remember you had to remember something and you just overthink it whole time without ability to think.
component of ingesting can last anywhere from 24 to 48 hours typically, but has also been reported to last up to 2 weeks or longer. Just
Shoo. 2 weeks would be a nightmare.
imagine a 2-week-long nightmare trip. Well, that's
Yeah, no.
been a reality for multiple people. Datura is considered a deliriant, which is, like I mentioned, because of the combination of anticholinergic and psychedelic toxins within this plant, which typically causes a very odd delirium state, usually causing a complete inability to differentiate dream from reality. Besides this,
Yeah. It's also what happens on Benadryl if you take too much. Or DXM, I think, also.
you may experience violent behavior, painful photophobia, muscle stiffness, disrobing, dysphoria, confusion, and amnesia, just to name a few. And considering the fact that some of these can last up to 2 weeks long, that alone sounds like hell. One user on a drug forum had this to say about datura. You trip so hard, you don't even know that you took datura. You forget because
Yeah. You forget everything.
your memories are imaginary. You could have conversations with friends that you knew from high school, and you could just sit there for 2 hours having conversations with this
With your own self because there is no one there. It's like living Fight Club.
good friend of yours until you realize that you never even knew this person, and there was nobody else in the room with you at all. Another user claimed, I took datura. For the next 24 to 36 hours, I was scurrying around my house, fully convinced that there were spies watching me from the roofs of neighboring houses.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, anything could happen if your brain forgets the last frame it saw. It's just living without knowing the past. You forget every frame that you see. And it's having to guess what's happening just from current context, what you currently see, and that's basically impossible.
I could hear them on my roof and stayed away from the windows so they couldn't watch me. And then I started seeing my ex-girlfriend who left me 2 months ago watching me from around all the corners and doors of
She doesn't look very friendly.
the house, grinning maniacally, but she would disappear every time I would look. I had several
Okay. That's exactly like what it felt like on Benadryl. You see a spider, you come near it to kill it, and it disappears. You go to bed, and you see it again on the wall. And you can't kill it because it disappears every time you try to kill it.
panic attacks and cried from relief when it wore off and I realized I was tripping. But I didn't realize any of it was a hallucination during the experience. Horrifying stuff. I could literally go on for
Yeah, he needs some psychotherapy.
days reading datura horror stories, and that's simply because almost every experience with this plant is a negative one, which shouldn't be a surprise considering this plant is literally used as a poison. I honestly don't know why anybody would even consider taking this considering all of the information that is now known about it. Literally try to find a good trip report on this stuff.
And Benadryl is still sold over the counter. It can cause the same effects if you take too much. And if you have insomnia and take too much, yeah, you can go crazy like this for a few hours. And it's not like it's only antihistamine, there are many other antihistamines that could replace Benadryl. And Benadryl could be just prescription drug for people who don't tolerate others or others don't work for them. It doesn't have to be over-the-counter medicine.
I couldn't. But it still somehow isn't even the worst entry on this list. Trank. If you thought fentanyl was scary, Trank is literally your worst nightmare. Trank.
That's used for animal rescues or or how are they called? The people who heal or who help animals with medical problems. Veterinarians use also this to paralyze the animal or big animal like elephant or a tiger or a lion or a gorilla. They use the trank.
Gets its name because of one of its ingredients, known as xylazine. Xylazine is primarily
Yeah, it's used to tranquilize big animals.
used as a tranquilizer for large mammals, such as
Nailed it.
horses or cows. This drug was actually first synthesized in 1962 in Germany to treat hypertension, although
Did I hear that right? You gave a human uh, a tranquilizer for a high blood pressure. I mean, his blood pressure has got to be real low after you give it to him. I mean, it should have been 0/0 because hearts ain't beating anymore.
during testing, it was rather quickly shown that this was too strong and too dangerous for human consumption. The FDA denied it, and it is only approved for veterinary uses.
Yeah, that's what I meant, veterinary. So for animals.
Which is, of course, why humans are taking it now. Although it was a wise decision to pull this.
I mean, there is another drug for veterinary use, and it's called Trembolone. That's an anabolic steroid for horses and cattle because it causes rapid muscle growth. But in humans, it can also cause very bad side effects. But humans are still using it. Don't know why.
Drug and do no more human testing, that has left us with little to no information on how xylazine affects the human body, which will definitely play into the danger component. The exact origin of the recreational use of this drug is unknown, but at least in the United States of America, it is speculated that this was first used recreationally in Puerto Rico. But this leads to another problem, and the likely reason for this recreational use is because of access. Similar to U47700, this drug is not illegal. Because it has been approved by the FDA for veterinary uses, it is not a scheduled substance. And although it is regulated and ideally only sold to registered veterinarians, there are still shady distributors that are legally selling it online without requiring any proof of
That's really real bad. That's plain wrong.
veterinary status, which, because of the lack of scheduling, makes this, for the most part, legal. Drug manufacturers and distributors for a while now have been using fentanyl to cut heroin to bring down costs. But now these same people are cutting fentanyl with xylazine to, again, keep costs down, all at the ultimate cost of the user's life. It's important to note that most people aren't just taking xylazine by itself, and trank, by definition, is typically
I don't know who is taking xylazine by itself willingly.
a mix of xylazine and either fentanyl, heroin, or other opioids. Although trank has earned its own street name, the risk of it being misrepresented or taken mistakenly by users is still extremely high. Although in some rare cases, people are actively seeking out this substance due to its lower cost. Now, what exactly does trank do to your body? Well, we've already kind of gone in depth about ultra-strong synthetic opioids in this video already and other videos, so I'll keep this part brief. But it does have an extremely strong opioid effect on your body. But due to the fact that it is meant for animals literally 4 to 5 times our size, the effects are not only much stronger, but also much longer lived. With a typical opioid experience lasting anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours, trank can last anywhere from 4 to 72 hours.
What the hell? 72 hours. That's oh, that's that's worse than a nightmare. That's that's torture. that's torture in hell.
This drug is dangerous, and the amount of overdoses reported have been growing exponentially over the last few years alone. And it is theorized that these numbers are extremely underreported as well too, because most toxicology reports are not searching for xylazine. And because tranq is cut with xylazine and opioids, typically it's only the opioids that are attributed to the death, meaning that we really don't know how many people have lost their life because of tranq. All of this information is extremely upsetting, sad, scary, crazy, everything. But one of the most unfortunate parts about tranq is that it's essentially a death sentence if you do happen to overdose. Most antidotes for opioid overdoses will simply not be effective when you're on tranq because those antidotes have no effect on the xylazole, meaning that although the opioids may potentially be neutralized, it will likely not be enough to save someone.
I mean, there is an easy and very, how is it called? Very easy to find antidote to opioids, and that's Narcan nasal spray. The ambulance always has one, so they can give it to you, but it's still over the counter, so you can't buy it if you ever happen to need it or find someone who needs it. But yeah, it's not over the counter. Even if you take it and don't need it, it won't have very bad effects on you because it mostly just blocks receptors for opioids or pushes the opioid out of the receptor so it can't work. So if you use it and don't take any opioids, it wouldn't affect you much. So it's very safe way to neutralize any opioid
In the case of an emergency. If you
or most opioids.
watched our last video about the deadliest drugs you've never heard of, then you've heard about a certain zombie drug, Flocka. Well, tranq is also another zombie drug, which causes similar tissue damage. Tranq essentially eats your body from the inside out, causing cellular death and necrosis in multiple parts of your body, causing you to essentially gain the appearance of a zombie with deep open wounds that are very likely to be very infected. Necrosis in the injection site has always been a risk, but for tranq, you don't even have to inject it to get these horrible effects. So yeah, tranq basically just seems like a horrible combination of Flocka and fentanyl, killing your mind and body and potentially even you simultaneously. Moral of the story, if something is used to sedate horses and cows, it's probably not meant for humans at all.
No shit, Sherlock. Of course it's not meant for human consumption.
GBL. GBL is a chemical that is used in cleaning solutions and nail polish. However, this chemical isn't popular because of what it does to your floors or nails. It's used because your body actually turns GBL into something you've likely heard of, GHB, gamma hydroxybutyrate.
Yeah, that's what we heard of.
GHB has been used for many things, both nefarious and personal uses. This drug is exceedingly popular within the club community due to its social and euphoric effects. In low doses, it's reported to have an alcohol-like effect, making people feel social, and in higher doses can make people
that's what I heard.
feel hypersexual with almost no inhibitions. However, a huge danger of this drug is the dosing, because the response curve on this drug is exponential, meaning that if you just take 10% more of what would be considered a normal dose, you could have an overdose due to your body's exponential response to this compound. Unlike some of
Okay, that's real bad.
the other entries on this list, GBL is actually a Schedule 1 substance, although it has other purposes. So it is illegal in the US. But as you know, this doesn't mean that people aren't taking it. It is important to note that GBL and GHB are not the same. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to be using the information interchangeably as GBL turns into GHB in your body and has very similar effects. Some of the biggest risk factors associated with GBL is the fact that the dosage is small, meaning that only milliliters of this can get you high and even kill you due to, like I mentioned, the exponential curve in response. Doing
Yeah, that's very bad. I mean, I don't know what to say, but I don't want to get a copyright strike, so I have to pause every few minutes or seconds. So I say that's real bad. I mean, it's really potent, and it can kill you by just missing by few milliliters, microliters, like less than a milliliter,
precise measurements in a club
most likely. I'm not sure. but by few milliliters it could kill you.
setting is not ideal and also not common, which makes a lot of room for danger. How this drug typically goes about killing its users during an overdose is simply by respiratory depression and slowed heart rate, either resulting in a coma or just straight up death. In more tame
Okay, so like opioids do.
cases, this drug is only known to make you black out completely, remembering absolutely nothing, which is why it was used for very, very unsavory purposes. Not only will you not remember what happened
Not cool, man.
after you pass out, but you likely won't remember what happened at all that entire night. GHB is extremely addictive, and most people that have taken this drug know somebody that has died because of this drug. I'm assuming most of you watching this video likely have some level of familiarity with this chemical, and may even be disappointed that this is the last entry on this list.
Dance until you're dead. Mm.
But the reason why I wanted to have this entry on this list is because of an email that I got from a subscriber. This person found me because of this drug series and felt compelled to not only share a list of the craziest drugs that he's tried, but he also wanted to share his experience specifically with GBL, as he says it was his worst withdrawal experience ever. And he also wanted to share
Withdrawal. Okay.
words of caution for the viewers, all of which I'm going to share now. English isn't their first language, so forgive the grammatical errors. It happened like 5 years ago when I met my girlfriend. We were both living in Berlin. We were most active in the clubbing scene. I was prior to that addicted to opioids, so I was interested in trying GBL for the first time.
Okay, that's not good, but it's not something to say like, what? I mean, it's in this context, it's something that it isn't so out of the pocket.
The first time I took it, it felt like a mix of benzos and a bit of MDMA. The second time I took it, I just fell asleep and woke up 10 hours later confused on how I fell asleep. That's what's common when you take too much GBL. You pass out. So then I started doing GBL every day. Soon I noticed I can't sleep without it. It's literally impossible. So the
Yeah.
problem with GBL is that when you're addicted to it, you will never fall asleep normally. You will need to take it every 2 hours to fall back asleep. So I woke up every 2 to 3 hours, took it, and then went back to sleep. My addiction
That's not healthy, man. I mean, he knows that's not healthy, but that's really, really bad for the body.
went so horrible. I took 60 to 80 milliliters every day of GBL. That's enough to kill 10 people. This
Damn.
year I realized that I can't continue like that. I will die. I have had a few moments where I did almost die due to overdose on opioids, benzos, and GBL.
I mean, go to a doctor. They should have something to make you feel better, or something that works like the GBL that could make you go asleep. Like, I don't know, maybe benzos or melatonin. Okay, melatonin likely isn't helping him, but maybe switching to benzos and then tapering off the benzos.
I've had many close calls. I realized I just can't go on like that. Also, with GBL, you need to take it every hour. Otherwise, you are getting withdrawals. In my case, I took it every 5 or 10 minutes. And if I waited
That sounds like hell.
too long to take it, I would start to vomit extremely out of nowhere. It was just horrible. I started searching for a hospital here where they could do withdrawal for me. When I was in the hospital, I remember I took my last dose of GBL at 6 a.m. And then at 10 a.m., I suddenly forgot everything. I just don't
Huh.
remember much. I was in a delirium state.
Okay, that explains
And
it.
the doctors told me I was super aggressive. I tried hitting them. I always tried to run away. And whenever I had IV drops attached to me, I always ripped them off because I thought they were poisoning me. Then
Okay, yeah, that fits to delirium.
the doctors told my parents we need to make him go into an induced coma. It's impossible to withdraw like this. They tried to put me into a coma but failed 3 times because I had a tolerance to the chemicals that they tried to give me. When it
Yeah. I mean, he mentioned that he used opiates before.
worked, I was in a coma for 1 week. And when I was in the coma, I had severe pneumonia in one lung and almost died there. Luckily, I didn't. After the coma, I was still there for another week. I have a few memories of what happened in those 2 weeks. I didn't even know I was in the hospital. I just thought I was in someone's basement. I thought I was on a Japan trip and a samurai chopped my head off. That's why
Okay.
I was in a basement because they were trying to reattach it. I also saw a corpse lying in my bed. Then I saw a glimpse of me sitting in a chair while there was a woman under the chair trying to kill me. I also remember
Okay. Yeah, yeah. That sounds real bad.
I saw snipers standing on the building near me, pointing guns at me. It felt
That sounds like delirium, paranoia, and hallucinations at the same time.
Felt so real because I thought it was. I heard gunshot. Then whenever I looked at the wall, I saw bullet holes in the wall. There was also a voice in my head telling me to run away from this hospital because they were poisoning me and trying to kill me. So whenever my
Yeah, that's auditory hallucinations too.
heart rate or anything else got dangerously high, I remember nurses running to me and they would check on me, screaming, "Doctor, doctor." The doctor ran into the room and rammed me with a syringe in my leg because I was dying. I had an extreme seizure. I still have the memory of this seizure, like I was there. I also remember that I had so many.
I don't know. I'm not sure if I remember it correctly, but I think people usually forget how what what happens during a seizure.
Many seizures. It was like a 24/7 seizure. I couldn't really move, and it was like I was trapped in my body. My arms were always in the air, extremely shaking, but I couldn't move them. When the 2 weeks were over in the hospital, they sent me to a withdrawal clinic where I stayed 3 weeks. It was awful. I extremely shaked for 1 month. I couldn't even eat with a fork or spoon. I was so shaky. When I asked
Yeah. That happens when you withdraw from, I think, alcohol or benzos or anything that acts on GABA a lot.
doctors what is wrong with me, they told me I had nerve damage. That really scared me. It took 4 months for the shaking to go away a bit, and I could live my life somewhat normally, but with complications. I still have tremors.
I don't know if it was a nerve damage. It could be, but I think it was brain receptors damage or just upregulation. So they needed to downregulate.
Also, my memories are really bad. My short-term memory is awful, and I can't control my emotions and I just burst out with emotions. I'm telling you this story about GBL because this drug is truly horrible. It's not just the effects that are dangerous, but it's also the withdrawal. You need to stay in an ICU unit in the hospital or you will die. My message to the RC community
Yeah.
would be this. Stay away from all of this stuff. There are almost no studies available on research chemicals. They are so potent and mostly unregulated. They can kill you super quick. Most of the
Yeah.
time, research chemicals are 1,000 times the potency of similar drugs. Seek help and stay away from this stuff before it kills you.
Mm-hmm. This man speaking facts.
I have lost 4 super close friends because of those chemicals. It's a dangerous game, which you sadly can't win. It would be amazing if more people were aware of research chemicals and how extremely dangerous they were. I really appreciate this individual not only sharing their story, but sharing their words of warning as well. These videos are meant exclusively for education and entertainment purposes, and in no way, shape, or form do we advise any use of any illicit drugs at all. I hate to
I mean, yeah, that's obvious, and I'm not either. Uh, yeah, I'm also not recommending you to use any drugs or any listed or not listed on this list, except it was prescribed by a doctor. Or, yeah, except it's prescribed by a doctor. I mean, you can smoke and drink if you want to, but I don't recommend it because those are also bad for you. But I smoke and sometimes drink a beer. But yeah, if you can, you shouldn't start because then smoking can become a problem, and if you drink too much, drinking can also become a problem.
leave things on a negative note, but unfortunately, this is just the reality of these things. I appreciate you guys so much for watching this video, and if you guys are curious about other videos about crazy, deadly, and scary drugs, check out the playlist on screen. There's currently 3 other videos you may or may not have seen yet. I'll see you guys in the next one. Trust me, bro.
Okay, this was every crazy drug you never heard of by Trust Me Bro. You can go to to the video, like it, subscribe if you liked it. I did, so I will like and subscribe. And yeah, this was very interesting for me because I am in working in a medical field, and it's interesting to see how something you drink or take can influence your body and your mind. But yeah, anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.